The war had lasted for centuries. No one even remembered how it started. The HFY Dominion, a ruthless empire of warlike creatures, had conquered hundreds of planets. They believed they were the strongest species in the galaxy. Against them stood the Vrin Alliance, a coalition of different races who fought desperately to stop the Dominion's expansion. But no matter how hard they fought, the war never ended. For every battle, the Vrin Alliance won. The HFY took another planet elsewhere. For every fleet destroyed, more ships were built. The galaxy had become a never-ending battlefield. Many species had already been wiped out. Others had surrendered, accepting the Dominion's rule just to survive. The Alliance was growing weaker. They needed help. But who could help them? The Galactic Council, made up of the oldest and wisest species, searched for a solution. They studied every known race, looking for warriors who could turn the tide of war. They needed something new, something different. That was when they came across an unremarkable species from a small blue planet, humans. At first, no one took the idea seriously. The Galactic Council had observed humans for centuries. They were young, only recently discovering space travel. Their home planet, Earth, was small compared to the vast empires of the galaxy. The Council believed humans were weak, too primitive to fight in a war of this scale. But some reports told a different story. Humans had fought countless wars on their own planet. They were survivors, capable of adapting to any environment. They were the only species that had spread across their entire world, mastering every land, sea, and sky. Most surprising of all, humans had a strange relationship with war. While other species fought for survival, humans fought for something more. They fought because they refused to lose. The Vrin Alliance was desperate. They had no choice but to take a risk. An offer was sent to Earth, inviting humanity to join the war. The Galactic Council expected humans to refuse. After all, why would they leave their peaceful home to fight a war that had nothing to do with them? But humans didn't hesitate. They sent their answer in just 3 words. We are coming. No speeches, no negotiations, no demands, just a promise. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. The day had finally come. The humans arrived. Across the galaxy, leaders and commanders gathered to watch the broadcast. Every major species in the Vrin Alliance wanted to see what these so-called warriors looked like. The HFY Dominion, too, watched from the shadows, curious but unimpressed. Then, the human fleet emerged from hyperspace. At first, the other species were confused. Human ships were nothing like the elegant, energy-efficient crafts of the Alliance. They were bulky, covered in thick armor, and bristling with weapons. Instead of sleek designs, they looked like floating fortresses, built not for speed, but for endurance. The HFY commanders laughed at the sight. To them, these ships looked slow and outdated, like something from an ancient war. The laughter stopped when the battle began. The first fight was on the edge of Alliance space. A HFY fleet had been attacking a mining colony, expecting an easy victory. When the humans arrived, the HFY didn't even see them as a threat. That was their first mistake. The moment the battle started, the humans did something no one expected. They didn't hold defensive formations like the other species in the Alliance. They didn't wait for orders. They charged. Human ships moved straight toward the enemy, weapons firing at full force. The HFY, used to enemies retreating or taking cover, were caught off guard. Their ships were fast, but the humans didn't care. They took the hits, their armored hulls absorbing damage that would have destroyed any other fleet. And then they hit back. Human weapons were brutal. Instead of relying on energy-based attacks like most species, they used kinetic weaponry, high-speed projectiles that tore through enemy shields like paper. The HFY suddenly found themselves outmatched. Their energy shields, designed to absorb laser fire, were useless against the sheer force of human artillery. And that was only the beginning. When the battle turned to ground combat, Things got even worse for the XL-TAR. Human soldiers landed on the colony, wearing heavy armor and carrying weapons that looked primitive but were terrifyingly effective. They didn't fight like the Alliance soldiers, who relied on strategy and careful coordination. Humans fought like they had nothing to lose. They adapted. They took risks. They didn't hesitate. The XL-TAR warriors, trained in disciplined formations, found themselves facing enemies who didn't follow the rules of battle. Humans used traps, ambushes, and unpredictable tactics. They fought in small, flexible squads, making them nearly impossible to pin down. And worst of all, they weren't afraid. In a desperate attempt to push the humans back, the XL-TAR unleashed their most fearsome ground troops, massive, towering beasts, covered in armor, designed to crush enemy forces. These monsters had ended countless battles before. No species had ever stood against them. Humans didn't run. They didn't retreat. They smiled. And then they brought them down. Using explosives, heavy firepower, and pure determination, the humans hunted the XL-TAR beasts like it was just another day at war. When the battle ended, the XL-TAR had lost not only the colony, but also something far more important: their confidence. Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread. The Galactic Council, once doubtful, now watched in silence. The XL-TAR Dominion, once arrogant, now felt something they had never experienced before: fear. The humans had arrived, and they were just getting started. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. The XL-TAR Dominion, the most feared empire in the known universe, had suffered a defeat. Not just any defeat, a crushing loss against a species no one had taken seriously. The news spread fast, reaching every corner of space. Some refused to believe it. Others thought it was a mistake, that maybe the humans had just been lucky. But the truth was undeniable. The humans had changed the war. The Vrin Alliance, though shocked, quickly realized what this meant. They had a new weapon, one more powerful than any fleet or super weapon. They had humans. And so, they'd wasted no time sending the first official joint mission: a large-scale battle against the Dominion at Outpost Varus 12, a heavily fortified XL-TAR stronghold. The plan was simple. The Alliance fleets would engage from a distance, while the human forces would land on the planet and take the fight directly to the enemy. Other species in the Alliance expected this to take days, maybe weeks. Humans took 3 hours. The assault began with orbital bombardment. But unlike other species, humans didn't just rely on ships. They preferred to be on the ground, in the fight. Their dropships roared through the sky, ignoring the anti-air defenses, and landed straight into the heart of enemy territory. The XL-TAR warriors were prepared for the usual battle strategies: slow advancements, defensive formations, long-range attacks. Humans ignored all of that. They came in fast and hard. The moment the dropships hit the ground, humans stormed out like a flood. They moved in groups, covering each other, using weapons that fired powerful kinetic rounds that shredded through enemy armor. Unlike the other Alliance forces, who fought carefully, humans charged. They took cover when needed, but never stopped moving forward. The XL-TAR, trained to fight disciplined armies, were overwhelmed. Their defenses, walls, bunkers, turrets, were all designed for traditional warfare. But humans weren't traditional. They climbed, they flanked, they improvised, and they did something the XL-TAR had never seen before. They laughed. Even in the heat of battle, humans cracked jokes, shouted challenges, and fought with an energy no other species could understand. To the XL-TAR, war was about domination and survival. To humans, war was a challenge to be won. A XL-TAR commander, watching from a control room, couldn't believe his eyes. "They are reckless," he growled, watching the humans fight. They should be losing. But they weren't. One by one, human soldiers destroyed the Dominion's defenses, breached their bunkers, and cleared every corridor. The XL-TAR, panicked, tried to retreat to their final stronghold inside the outpost. That was when the real nightmare began. The human shock troopers arrived. Dressed in heavy armor, carrying massive weapons, they looked like walking tanks. Other species in the galaxy relied on fast, agile soldiers. But humans built warriors who could take a hit and keep going. These shock troopers didn't just break through enemy lines, they walked through them. The XL-TAR fired everything they had, but the humans just kept coming, their armor deflecting blasts, their weapons tearing through anything in their way. It was over. Within 3 hours, the Dominion forces surrendered. Not because they had no weapons left, not because they had no soldiers. They surrendered because they were terrified. Never before had they faced an enemy that fought like this. An enemy that didn't retreat. An enemy that didn't fear death. The few XL-TAR who survived spoke in hushed voices about the monsters in human skin. The Vrin Alliance, still watching from orbit, was silent. They had expected humans to be strong, but this was something else. Something terrifying. The galaxy had made a mistake. They had underestimated humanity. And now, everyone was afraid. The XL-TAR Dominion had always ruled through fear. For centuries, their enemies had trembled at the sight of their war fleets. Their warriors were ruthless, their technology powerful. Entire civilizations had surrendered without a fight, choosing slavery over extinction. But now, for the first time, it was the XL-TAR who were afraid. The battle at Outpost Varus 12 had not just been a defeat, it had been a massacre. Thousands of XL-TAR soldiers, trained for war since birth, had fallen in just a few hours. Their strongest defenses, built to withstand months of siege, had crumbled almost instantly. Their commanders, once confident, had been left speechless. And the reason was clear. Humans. News spread faster than light. The surviving XL-TAR troops carried stories back to their leaders. Stories of an enemy unlike anything they had faced before. An enemy that fought without hesitation. An enemy that charged into battle with laughter, as if war was a game they had already won. The XL-TAR High Command held an emergency meeting. For the first time in their history, they weren't discussing how to conquer. They were discussing how to survive. "This is impossible," one general growled, his claws tapping nervously on the table. "How can a species so young be this powerful?" "They are not more powerful," another argued, shaking his head. "They are simply different. They fight in ways we do not understand." "We must find their weakness," a third commander insisted. "Every species has one. We just need to." "You don't understand." The room fell silent as one of the few surviving commanders from Varus 12 stepped forward. His armor was dented, his face pale. He had seen the humans up close. He had fought them, and he had lived to tell the tale. "There is no weakness," he whispered. "Not like we expect." The others stared at him, confused. "Their technology is not superior," the commander continued. "Their weapons are powerful, yes, but no more advanced than ours. Their ships are strong, but not unbeatable. They take losses like any other army." He looked around the room, his eyes filled with something the XL-TAR had never felt before. They do not win because they are stronger. They win because they refuse to lose. A cold silence filled the chamber. The XL-TAR were warriors. They understood strategy, power, and intimidation. But this was something else. For the first time, they had met an enemy that did not fear them. An enemy that saw war not as a duty, but as a challenge to overcome. And worst of all, the humans were enjoying it. Meanwhile, in the Vrin Alliance, reactions were mixed. The Alliance had begged for humanity's help, and humanity had answered. But now, as reports came in from Varus 12, some leaders began to wonder if they had made a mistake. One of them, a reptilian diplomat named Zhurvak, sat in his office, watching battle footage. He had seen countless wars, but nothing like this. Humans didn't fight like the Vrin Alliance. The Alliance used careful tactics, advanced shields, and defensive formations. Humans charged straight into enemy fire. Their soldiers took injuries that would have crippled other species, yet they kept moving. Their ships, built like fortresses, pushed through enemy fleets like battering rams, and even when they were outnumbered, outgunned, or trapped, they never gave up. A cold realization settled in Jurvak's mind. The XL-Tar were right to be afraid. Because if the humans could do this to the Dominion, what would they do if the Alliance ever became their enemy? In the dark corners of the galaxy, whispers grew. Other civilizations, some neutral and others secretly supporting the Dominion, watched in silence. Some had hoped for the XL-Tar to win. Others had planned to join the war later, waiting for the right time. But now, everything had changed. No one wanted to fight humans. No one wanted to be their enemy. Because the moment humanity joined the war, the entire galaxy cowered in fear. The XL-Tar Dominion had never known fear until now. The loss at Outpost Varus 12 had shattered their confidence. Across their empire, whispers of the human threat spread like wildfire. Soldiers who had once believed in their own superiority now hesitated before battle. Even their warlords, once arrogant and ruthless, spoke in hushed voices about the creatures from Earth. For the first time in centuries, the Dominion faced a true enemy, and they were losing. In response, the High Command made a desperate decision. If they could not outfight humanity, they would outthink them. They gathered their best strategists, their most brilliant scientists, and their most cunning spies. Their mission: to find a way to defeat the humans before it was too late. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, humanity continued its unstoppable advance. The next target was Fortress Jorkan, a massive XL-Tar stronghold on a volcanic planet. The Dominion believed it was impenetrable. High walls, energy shields, and endless waves of warriors made it one of the most secure bases in their empire. The Vryn Alliance expected a long siege. The humans, they laughed. Instead of waiting for the fortress to weaken, they attacked immediately. The battle began with human artillery unleashing a brutal bombardment. While the XL-Tar huddled behind their shields, human warships did something unexpected. They landed. Unlike other species, who relied on air support and orbital strikes, humans preferred to fight up close. They deployed massive land vehicles, tanks, walkers, and mobile artillery, turning the battlefield into a storm of fire and steel. The XL-Tar had never seen anything like it. They fought back with everything they had, but the humans pushed forward relentlessly. Their infantry charged through burning trenches, using advanced exosuits to shrug off enemy fire. Their pilots flew through anti-air defenses with terrifying precision. And their commanders, instead of hiding in the back, fought alongside their troops. Within 5 hours, the once mighty Fortress Jorkan had fallen. Not because the humans had better weapons, not because they had superior numbers, but because they simply refused to stop fighting. The message was clear. Nowhere in the galaxy was safe from humanity. Back in the Dominion's capital, the High Command grew desperate. They could no longer afford to ignore the truth. Their old strategies, fear, intimidation, and brute force, had failed. They needed something new. A young strategist, General Exorvath, stepped forward with a bold plan. "We cannot beat them in direct combat," he admitted, "but we do not have to." The other warlords growled in frustration. "Then how do we stop them?" "We must make them question why they are fighting," Exorvath said. His claws tapped against the table as he activated a holographic display. "Humans are strong, yes, but they are also emotional. They care about their people. Their soldiers fight with passion because they believe in something." He zoomed in on an image. Earth. If we make them doubt, if we make them feel fear for their home, they will hesitate. Silence filled the room. Then, a slow smile spread across the faces of the warlords. For the first time since the humans entered the war, the XL-Tar had a plan. In the depths of space, Human forces celebrated their latest victory. But far away, hidden in the darkness, the Dominion was already preparing their next move. They could not outfight humanity. But if they could break them from within, perhaps, just perhaps, they could still win. The XL-Tar Dominion had learned a painful truth. Humans could not be defeated through strength alone. Every attempt to overpower them had failed. Every battle had ended in disaster. The more the Dominion fought, the stronger humans became. So now, the XL-Tar would not fight with weapons. They would fight with fear. On a hidden command ship deep in Dominion space, General Xorvath stood before the High Command. His eyes burned with determination. "Attacking Earth is impossible," one of the warlords growled. "Their homeworld is heavily defended. Their fleets are unmatched. We do not need to attack Earth," Xorvath replied, his voice calm. "We only need to make humans believe that we will." He activated a holographic display, showing human communications, intercepted messages, and military reports. The XL-Tar had studied their enemy well. Humans fought harder when they were united, when they believed in their cause. But what if they started to doubt? What if they feared for their families? What if, for the first time, humans felt true terror? Xorvath's plan was simple but brilliant: psychological warfare. Instead of launching a direct attack, the Dominion would spread rumors, plant false intelligence, and create chaos. They would send spies to spread whispers of an incoming invasion. They would hack communication networks to make it seem like Dominion forces were already on their way to Earth. If humans thought their homeworld was in danger, they might hesitate. And in war, even a moment of hesitation could mean defeat. The High Command agreed. The plan was set. The XL-Tar would not break humanity's weapons. They would break their spirit. Meanwhile, aboard a human warship, Captain Ryan leaned back in his chair, staring at the reports in front of him. Something felt wrong. Human fleets had been advancing quickly, victory after victory. The Dominion was losing ground. And yet, something was off. Strange messages were spreading across human channels. Whispers of a secret XL-Tar fleet moving toward Earth. Unconfirmed reports of enemy ships appearing near human space. Even civilians were growing nervous. Ryan frowned. He had fought the XL-Tar long enough to know their tactics. They were brutal, aggressive, and merciless. But this wasn't their style. "They're trying to make us panic," he muttered. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Harris, nodded. "It's working. Some of our forces are already hesitating. The politicians back home are debating whether we should pull back to defend Earth." Ryan slammed his fist on the table. "That's exactly what they want. If humanity stopped pushing forward, if they pulled back even a little, it would give the XL-Tar time to recover." Ryan knew what had to be done. "We keep moving," he said firmly. "We don't give them the chance to breathe. We end this war before they can act on their lies." Harris hesitated. "But what if they really are planning something big?" Ryan's eyes burned with determination. "Then we hit them so hard they never get the chance." But elsewhere in the galaxy, the XL-Tar plan was already in motion. Hidden operatives spread fear across human-controlled worlds. In the shadows, cyber attacks disrupted supply lines and communications. False reports flooded military networks. Doubt seeped into human ranks. And on Earth itself, leaders debated. Some wanted to continue the war. Others demanded that human forces pull back to defend their home. For the first time since entering the war, humanity was no longer united. And the Dominion knew, if they could make humans hesitate for just a little longer, they might still have a chance to win. The XL-Tar Dominion had played their most dangerous move yet. They knew they could not defeat humanity in direct battle, so they had chosen a different path. Fear. Whispers of an incoming attack on Earth spread through human space. False intelligence reports, hacked transmissions, and mysterious sightings of enemy ships near human territory all worked to create doubt. For the first time since the war began, humanity hesitated. On Earth, inside the United Human Council, Admirals, generals, and political leaders sat around a massive table. The tension in the room was thick. The war had been going well, too well. Every battle had been a victory. The Tar were retreating. And yet, what if the rumors are true? One council member asked. What if the Dominion is preparing a direct strike on Earth? We have no proof, Admiral Lewis responded. These reports are inconsistent. Some say they have a massive fleet coming. Others say it's a hidden strike force. It doesn't add up. But can we afford to take the risk? Another politician asked. Earth is our home. If we lose it, we won't lose it, Lewis interrupted. His voice was firm. Pulling back now would be the real mistake. The Tar want us to stop pushing forward. If we do, we give them time to regroup. Some nodded in agreement. Others remained silent. The war had been a gamble from the start. Humanity had entered it as the underdog, fighting against an empire that had ruled the galaxy for centuries. But now, they had the advantage. Would they throw it away because of fear? Meanwhile, aboard the human warship Vanguard, Captain Ryan and his crew had been monitoring Dominion movements for weeks. They had seen the spread of false intelligence, the panic among civilians, the hesitation among their own leaders. Ryan had made his decision. We need to prove this is a lie, he told his second-in-command, Lieutenant Harris. If we can expose their deception, we can crush their plan before it's too late. How? Harris asked. We don't have proof. All we have are suspicions. Ryan's eyes narrowed. Then we get proof. The Vanguard launched into action. Using stealth technology, they slipped into enemy territory, tracking the supposed invasion fleet. If the Tar really had a massive force preparing to attack Earth, there had to be signs, mass ship movements, supply chains, command signals. But as the Vanguard scanned the Dominion space, they found nothing. No invasion fleet, no massive war preparations, just scattered defenses, desperate retreats, and fear. Ryan smirked. They're bluffing. Harris exhaled. Then we need to tell Earth before they fall for it. Ryan's eyes burned with determination. No, telling them isn't enough. He pointed to the Dominion's weakened defenses on their holomap. We're going to show them. The final push begins. Back on Earth, the debate raged on. Some leaders wanted to pull back, others wanted to push forward. Then, a message arrived. It was from Captain Ryan and the Vanguard. A live transmission showed Dominion space completely exposed. There was no invasion fleet, no hidden force. The Tar were weaker than ever. The fear, the rumors, it had all been a trick. Admiral Lewis stood. His voice was clear, powerful. The Dominion tried to make us afraid. They wanted us to stop. But now we know the truth. He turned to the council. This is our moment. We do not retreat. We finish this war. Across human space, the message spread. Fleets prepared for battle. Soldiers readied their weapons. Civilians, once afraid, now cheered. The Tar had tried to break humanity's spirit. Instead, they had made them more determined than ever. And now, the final battle was coming. The truth had been revealed. The Tar Dominion had no invasion fleet, no secret weapon. Their entire plan had been a lie. Humanity had almost fallen for it. Almost. But now, with their fear replaced by determination, the final push was about to begin. Aboard the human flagship Titan, Captain Ryan stood before his crew, his voice steady and strong. The Dominion thought they could break us with lies, he said. They failed. The crew listened in silence, their faces hardened with resolve. We are no longer fighting just to win. We are fighting to end this war. He looked at the massive fleet assembled before them. Hundreds of human warships, joined by their Vrin allies, stood ready to strike the Dominion's last strongholds. The Tar have nowhere left to run, Ryan continued. They wanted us to be afraid. Now, they will learn fear. With that, he gave the order. All ships, advance. and humanity's final assault began. In the Dominion's last stronghold, Prime Command, panic had taken hold of the Teltar leadership. Reports came in from every front. Humanity was coming. Their fleets moved with terrifying speed, their attacks relentless. General Exorvath, the mastermind of the failed psychological war, clenched his claws. His plan had not only failed, it had backfired. Instead of breaking humanity, he had united them. A warlord slammed his fist against the table. What do we do? Our fleets are too weak to stop them. Exorvath knew the truth. There was no escape. But the Dominion had ruled the galaxy for centuries. They would not surrender easily. If we are to fall, Exorvath growled, we will make them pay for every step. And with that, the Dominion prepared for their final stand. The battle for the Dominion begins. The human fleet arrived in Dominion space like a storm. The Teltar, outnumbered and outgunned, had fortified their last stronghold. Defense platforms, planetary shields, and every last ship they had stood in their way. But humans had already proven they were unstoppable. The battle erupted with a fury never seen before. Human warships pierced through enemy defenses, unleashing precise, devastating attacks. Their fighters danced through Zeltar formations, striking with lethal efficiency. On the ground, human soldiers landed in waves, storming enemy fortifications. They fought through trenches, destroyed bunkers, and shattered defenses with sheer determination. And leading the charge was Captain Ryan. With his team, he pushed through the enemy's final barricades. Plasma fire lit the skies, explosions rocked the battlefield, but nothing could stop them. The Teltar fought desperately, but they could not hold back the tide. One by one, their defenses fell. Their warriors, once fearless conquerors, now knew what it meant to be hunted. And then, as the battle raged, the unthinkable happened. The Dominion's leadership sent a message. Aboard the Titan, a transmission appeared on screen. It was General Exorvath himself, his face filled with anger, but also something else. Defeat. His voice was low, heavy. We fought for power. We believed we were invincible. He looked away for a moment before facing the screen again. We were wrong. The bridge of the Titan fell silent. Admiral Lewis stepped forward. Are you surrendering? Exorvath exhaled. We have no choice. The warlord who once sought to control the galaxy now had to admit the truth. The Teltar had lost. Humanity had won, and the war was finally coming to an end. But the final chapter had yet to be written. The Dominion's surrender would change everything. Would humanity show mercy, or would they deliver justice for the countless worlds that Teltar had conquered? One thing was certain. The galaxy would never be the same again. The war was over. The Teltar Dominion, once the most feared empire in the galaxy, had surrendered. For centuries, they had ruled with an iron fist, believing themselves superior to all others. They had conquered countless worlds, destroyed civilizations, and spread terror across the stars. And yet, when humanity entered the war, everything changed. The Dominion had tried to crush them. They had used overwhelming force, brutal tactics, and even deception. But nothing had worked. Humans never broke. Now, the once mighty rulers of the galaxy stood defeated. But the question remained, what would humanity do next? Aboard the human flagship Titan, Captain Ryan and his crew watched as the Teltar fleet powered down their weapons. Across the battlefield, enemy ships floated helplessly, waiting for their fate. The transmission from General Exorvath was still on screen. His once proud posture was gone. His voice, once filled with arrogance, now held only exhaustion. We have no choice but to surrender, Exorvath repeated. Ryan glanced at Admiral Lewis, who stood beside him. What do we do? The Admiral's face was unreadable. We won. But victory is not just about defeating an enemy. It's about deciding what comes next. Ryan nodded. He had spent years fighting the Teltar. He had seen their cruelty, their hunger for power. He had lost friends, seen entire worlds burned. And yet, humanity was different. They had not fought this war for conquest. They had fought for freedom. Ryan stepped forward. His voice was calm, but firm. "General Exorvath, you will order all remaining Dominion forces to stand down. You will return control of every occupied world back to its people." Sorvath's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "It will be done." Ryan continued. "You will also answer for the crimes your empire has committed." There was a long silence. The Exil-Tar had never faced justice before. They had always been the rulers, the untouchable power in the galaxy. But now, everything had changed. Exorvath finally lowered his head. "We accept your terms." The Dominion's reign was over. Across the galaxy, as news of the surrender spread, celebrations erupted on every world that had suffered under the Dominion's rule. On planets once enslaved, people reclaimed their freedom. On worlds once burned, survivors began to rebuild. Humanity had done the impossible. They had not only survived the war, but had changed the fate of the entire galaxy. But even in victory, humanity did not claim the throne. They did not seek to replace the Dominion with another empire. Instead, they called for a new alliance, one where no species would rule over another, where all would have a voice. Many doubted it could work. Many feared that another war would come. But one thing was certain: humanity had proven itself, not as conquerors, but as defenders. And as the first meeting of the new Galactic Council began, one truth echoed across the stars. The age of fear was over. The age of unity had begun.